Salam alaikum. Ramadan is upon us, so here are some tips for my subscribers that are doing Ramadan and PTs that have clients that are doing Ramadan. It will help make things a lot easier and help you preserve your gains. First step, try to wake up later. If you can easily just wake up later, that's a very easy time to cut down on the amount of sunrise hours, which is the amount of hours that you have to fast. You cannot drink, you cannot eat. So if you can cut down those hours, that's a very easy way to do this. Of course, not everybody has the luxury of just being able to wake up very late in the day. And in general, I found that, which is my second tip, there are free schedules that typically, for most people, are the best to stick to. And consistency is generally very important. So it's good to kind of stick to one of these schedules whenever possible and make that consistent, because your body will adapt to it, your biorhythm will adjust, you will only become hungry at the times that you have the food, and it will be much easier than if you throw around your schedule every single day and it's just completely chaotic. Because then you'll be hungry at random times, your sleep will probably suffer, sleep deprivation in turn will increase your appetite throughout the day, making the fasting more difficult, and everything just becomes a lot messier. So, schedule one is, like I said, to wake up very late and then essentially turn it into a regular fasting diet, which means you fast and you break the fast with a light meal. Light meals typically work better because if you have a long fast and then a big meal, most people kind of crash. Whereas if you have a light meal, you can go to the gym afterwards and then you have your big meal. You need to have some discipline because after the first meal, and especially after a long fast, you may not be in the mood to train, but this is the ideal, like physiologically speaking, this is the ideal timing that you would first break the fast so you don't train fast, that you have some carbohydrates and some protein, at least 15 gram carbohydrates and at least 0.4 gram per kilogram protein. You can easily have more than that. Break fast, train, big meal, repeat every single day. It's kind of like a regular fasting diet and it's really not that bad in this case. Schedule 2 is that you wake up very early and you break the fast in the morning already. So this works well if you don't have to wake up too late. In kind of tropical time zones, this can work quite well. If it's like 6 to 6, sunrise, you can wake up like 4 probably you'd have to wake up, but that's doable if you go to bed early enough. Again, break the fast, train, big meal. Then you have the daytime fast, rather. And then you have another big meal before going to bed quite early. And then you have the nighttime fast. So this kind of splits it up where you have 2 feeding times with 2 fasts. That also works well. Both of these fasts are not that difficult then, comparatively speaking. Right, and then schedule 3 is the siesta variant, which can work well in current Mediterranean, like Spain. If you cannot really do one or the other schedule, you have to kind of fall in between. You would wake up early, then go back to bed after having a meal. So this is, if you cannot wake up so early that you can have a meal, train, have another meal, and then do the fast. What you can do is you can wake up before you have to start Ramadan, have a meal, go back to sleep, do the fast, and then at the end of the day, meal, training, and another meal. And then typically, because you have to break up your sleep routine, you will suffer some sleep deprivation, so it works well to have another siesta, like an afternoon nap or period of sleeping. I would, however, caution to be careful with sleep deprivation because it can increase your appetite and make everything harder in the long run. If you stick with a regular schedule and you maintain good sleep, it will become a lot easier. Whereas if your sleep gets messed up and your schedule becomes a mess, then Ramadan will become a lot more difficult. Right, tip 3 is to prepare yourself mentally. Ramadan is very much a mental struggle. Physically, your body does not have issues surviving Ramadan. Like, it is not a survival stress. The dehydration is a bigger issue, but the food deprivation, fasting for not even a whole day, really isn't a threat to your health. In fact, it may have positive health benefits. So it's very good to realize that. My last video was also on mindset. I talk about it a lot in my book, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but really the knowledge is that you're physically very capable of fasting for this period. And if you have the right mindset, then it will be a lot easier. You can focus on just staying occupied, doing things, staying busy, and you won't have to think about food all the time. Like, that's the worst thing you can do, kind of sit around doing nothing, thinking about how hard it is and food, because then you'll just be much more focused on it. Whereas if you try to just stay busy, get into a consistent routine and habit, and that way Ramadan won't be that difficult. Tip 4, try to avoid fasted workouts, but if you have to, then do your workouts fasted. It is always better to work out than not to work out. And then 5, remember that the goal of Ramadan, as stated in the Quran at least, of course interpretations differ, but it's not to suffer. The Quran says, I quote, Allah intends for you ease and does not intend for you hardship. Of course, this is all relative, but If you're really physically incapable of doing Ramadan, then most people agree that you probably shouldn't. Don't risk your health to do it. You can postpone the fasting days and do them at a later time. So it's also good to know if it really is essentially impossible for you to fast without serious risk to your health. All right, I hope that makes Ramadan a little easier for you, and bel tafi.